Hello everyone, welcome back to Summoner Sunday. Just going over my list that I ran this week at Nexus Night and kind of thoughts on still being a deck nomad and kind of feeling out where I want to go next. So let's just hop into it. First off, I ran Yasuo this week. I wanted to try something new. The list I saw from, I believe it's Galewinds on YouTube seemed quite interesting. I didn't have all of the cards for his list on me, so I just made adaptations where I could, just to see how the deck played. And I had reasonable success. I could definitely feel some of the corner cutting that I had to do for my collection. Most notably, the Chosen Champion. The Yasuo here, the extra point when you move 3 times Yasuo, I was never able to find myself in a situation to make that work. I think I really just need more cards to make it work. Maybe the pirate ship or whatever that lets you move a guy to base. Something like that I think would be necessary to turn this on. I was only running 2 Ride the Winds, and I think having this and Ride the Wind is one of the only ways you're going to make use of it. So just a difficult card to make work, and I think the green one would have been much better. I did manage to trade for one at Nexus Night, so next time I try this list, it will be closer to Galewinds. But that is the Legend and Champ. Going through the cards just in cost order, I have 2 stack decks. I would like the third, I just haven't yet found them. These uncommons for this game, for this really big set, have just been a little too hard to get. So I'll find somebody with a spare stack deck at some point. Just a matter of finding the right person. Trades in this day and age just aren't flowing as nicely as they did in a while ago. I think COVID shifted it. Before COVID, if you were in the TCG place, everyone had a trade binder with them all the time, and were literally it was almost expected that anytime you went into the shop for an event, you would be making some sort of trade somewhere along the way. But it feels like it's not quite that anymore, which is a little disappointing. But 2 stack decks, I would 100% read the third when I get it. Then I was running 3 Defy. This one is solid. I feel like my biggest issue with this list tonight, and it's hard for me to exactly say where the fault lies. I don't know if I got unlucky with my battlefield selection. It was best of 1 at this event, so I don't know if I needed to have Zon Warrens more reliably, or if I need to adjust my lists for best of 1, because I haven't been playing best of 3 very much. But I felt like I was running out of cards, and Defy, while useful, only works if you can kind of establish a board. And there were a lot of times where I would try to get a board established and have it interacted with, and either not have enough runes up for Defy, or I would get a bad draw where I drew too many Defies and not enough board. So there was a bit of tension there. I think just finding some way to get more card advantage in the deck would be very useful. But Defy is a great card. I would probably cut down on one of these until I figure out that card advantage thing. Next up, I was running 2 Gust. Probably should have been running 3. I never seem to find this one tonight, so I'm not going to comment too much on it. It is strong, but it is also kind of limiting. I think with this particular list running as many 2-drops as it was, this goes up a little bit in value, being able to either protect your guys or clear out some of those early battlefields so that you can get those early point advantages. But that's still more testing needed. The list was running a single Charm, which I think I agree with. Charm is a card that works best with bigger units that are trying to hold. And this deck is definitely a conquer and move thing. So the first copy of Charm can be useful just to snipe something that your opponents are trying to set up. But it is not too great otherwise. And kind of one of the cards that you would want to work in with some larger bodies, which is actually one of the places I had to make concessions just based on my collection. So not a card that I think in my current build is correct. Next up, we have 3 On Guard. Great card. No notes here, except for maybe that I want to run Dreaming Tree, just so that I have some card advantage, but this is a great card otherwise. Then we have 2 Scrap Heaps. I am running the Traveling Merchants and the Zon Warrens, so I'm hoping to be able to make these into card advantage. The issue being that because I've just been doing best of 1 for the most part, I don't have control over getting Zon Warrens all the time. So there may be a world where I need to adjust my battlefields and for best of 1, and the Scrap Heap might not make the cut afterwards. Next up, I had 1 block. I don't remember this being in Gale Wind's original list. This was probably one of my concessions because I didn't have a Zhonya's at the time. I have managed to trade for it, and I just wanted to put in another card, and I figured this as another card that I could use, kind of like a Discipline or an On Guard, would be a useful thing to run, and especially because it's got hidden, I can kind of stash it away on a discount when the time comes. Next, we have Discipline, another great card. Again, no notes. This is the kind of card that you definitely want to have if you're running green. After that, we have 1 Mask of Foresight, just the single copy. I did find that I was mostly attacking with just 1 guy, and that was working reasonably well. If I fell behind on board, though, and had just a bunch of little guys, this one did not always work, but was very solid at kind of breaking those early stalemates and getting ahead on points. It's just a matter of finding the right points. And I do think that with the green Yasuo, this would be a much stronger card, giving you the ability to bonk for 7 off of his attack trigger rather than 6 would be a real big boon. Next up, we have 2 Fighter Flights. I think I would probably go up to 3 in this particular list that I happen to be running. I think this is a really, really strong card, and only running 2 limited when I could find it. I didn't always find them, and I think they would have pretty much always been useful at just kind of out-tempoing my opponent, capturing battlefields on lower resources just to get those point leads. Also, it would be useful if I ever had to try to make use of this Yasuo. Again, it didn't come up because I would either just not have the time or would be under enough pressure to where I couldn't play out this Yasuo. But I would definitely go up to 3, I think, in here. Next up, we have Rebuke. This one's really hard on the power costs. So I think the first one is probably correct. If I was running a sideboard, I would definitely have more in the sideboard. But a lot of times it just feels like Fighter Flight will do almost the same thing. And this one resets their on plays. So it does have other downsides to it where Fighter Flight can be quite good. But yeah, the first one I think is good, and especially in best of 1, you want to have access to all of the effects in the deck. So the first one I think is correct. Next up, we have our 2-drop guys. We have the Traveling Merchant. I think this guy is great. It really helps you see your deck because the card advantage is kind of minimal in the deck right now. Having the ability to cycle through to find the correct cards is really useful. After that, we have the Stalwart Poro. This one is really nice because if you can get it on board early, it defends a little bit better than it looks and makes it harder for your opponent to trade into it. But it is much worse late game on offense because the shield doesn't come active. So very strong, but a lot more timing dependent. Next up, we have 2 Tide Turners. I was able to use this guy once or twice, but a lot of times it was at a point where I was kind of behind anyways. I think in a world where you get to go first, it works better. But I unfortunately lost all of the die rolls for Nexus Knight. And I did win one of them, but I was never able to properly set up the Tide Turner style turns if I had been going first. Final 2-drop we have is the Clockwork Keeper. Just a little bit of a card advantage, and he has the option of being played out early. This one I need to get used to how to play this guy, because I felt like a lot of times he was too weak, and then maybe I would loot him away with a Traveling Merchant, which may or may not have been correct. There's a gameplay reasons why I'm not 100% sure on this guy. I think it's probably good in some number just because the card advantage is really important, but the correct number and how to play them I'm still working out how to do. Next up, we have the Wielder of Water. This guy is quite strong. I actually like this guy probably the most of all of my units besides the Traveling Merchant. This guy and Traveling Merchant definitely always felt solid to play. It was nice that on 5 energy, I could send him in as a 4, which was usually enough to conquer battlefields, and then he sticks on the board defending as a 4, which is pretty strong. So definitely one that I am interested in holding on to. I think Galevin's was running 2. I did like the 3 on this one, but obviously he's the one with the metal Yasuo, so I won't argue too much about it. The next 3 cards are cards that I ran because I did not have any Mind Splitters. So I just went through my collection of green and purple stuff and grabbed what I could. I ran 1 Sona. Unfortunately, it never came up. I think I drew it once, and the turn that I drew it was too late in the game to make a difference. 1 Blitzcrank. I was able to get a kill with Blitzcrank once early game, but I did not realize, and this is probably just Magic's Gathering brain, in Magic, most abilities are optional and not mandatory, but for this guy, when he holds return him to hand, that's not optional, and that makes it really tough to use him, especially because this deck isn't holding very often. You end up putting him out. He will hold because he's got a good body, get a kill, and then he goes back to hand and then kind of rots in your hand. Because a 5 cost 5 might is not necessarily great on rate, especially if you're stuck with a bunch of 2 guys, and it makes it just kind of difficult to kind of use that ability again. So you get him once, but after that, it's really tough to get use out of him. Not one I would recommend for Yasuo. Would be better with Leona maybe, or another deck where you can more reliably hold a battlefield and then play him out to continually chunk. But glad I learned how the rules will play out more, and kind of a reality check to a former Magic player. Oh, I say former like I don't play Magic. I still play Magic. And then finally, 1 Kayn. This guy, I don't think I drew him the entire night. I managed to pick up another copy because I do think that this one is probably one that would fit my playstyle a little better. And I would like to see how he plays out with a little bit more movement, ability stuff. Maybe get him onto a battlefield, then use the ship to pull him back, and then send him in, or move him in with a Yasuo and then gank over or something like that. I can see a lot more ways to use this guy in this deck particular, so I'm interested in trying out some more of these. Final 2 cards in the deck are 2 Rassas. This one was tricky. I felt like anytime I drew it too early, I was so incentivized to get rid of it because I was worried I would never get to cast it. And then usually like 2 turns later, it would have been the perfect card to have. So I'm really unsure on the correct way to resolve just my draw with this one. I can't tell when is correct to hold on to it and when is not. I know that some of the times I discarded him to like Traveling Merchant or Zon Warrens, it was correct. But I know also that some of the times it was incorrect. And so identifying and being able to feel out when it's correct to hold and when to toss him is going to be an interesting development for where I go as a player in this deck. But otherwise, a good card. There was at least one game where I got to cast him for 0 and move him into a battlefield. My opponent fighter flighted him, and then I just cast him again for 0. So that felt really great. And I do think that this guy has a lot of potential just going forward, especially as we start to get more effects where you can fill up your trash more reliably. Definitely one I'm glad to have a play set of for the future. So that was the deck. It was just best of 1, so I don't have a sideboard. Let me pull up my runes. I ran the 6/6 split I just took my runes out of my starter decks and ran a 6/6 split. Unlike with Jinx, this 6/6 split felt fine. I never had any issues with runes the whole night, and I don't think there's anything that would make me want to change off of 6/6 at this point. Felt great. And then for battlefields, let's grab those. I ran Targon Peak, Zon Warrens, and Windswept Hillock. I saw these two in the games. I did not ever see Targon Peak, so it's hard for me to evaluate. I think that this one would definitely be solid, but I think the issue with the deck is less so the being able to hold up runes and more so the cards. So I'd be really interested in finding an angle that let me get more cards. I might have to run the hold when you hold draw a card battlefield, just so that I have something to draw cards with. And I don't know if this is the correct set of battlefields specifically for best of 1, because I have not done a skirmish yet, and I've only been doing the Nexus Knights, which have all just been best of 1, which is a lot of fun. I'm used to that from One Piece, so best of 1 doesn't bother me. But I would be interested to try some best of 3s in the future, just to see if that helps with the go first, go second sort of dichotomy. Because I did feel that losing the die roll in all 3 rounds tonight was really detrimental to my abilities. The one game that I was able to win, it was because my opponent did not have a strong start, and I was able to get ahead in points with the ability, but I just was not able to reliably do that and fell behind in a lot of games where the 2-drops were not very good at catching up. But that was my deck for Nexus Knight. Where I'm thinking for moving forward, I do want to try something a lot closer to Galewind's list. I still haven't found Mind Splitters, but I did get the green Yasuo. I did get Azania's. So I'm going to try adapting this list, moving a little closer to Galewind's, and then maybe adjusting a few other cards to play around best of 1 for just the reality of the games I play. But we'll see. The deck felt pretty good. I just need to figure out the go second issue and find out a way to make it feel a little stronger going second, and maybe some card advantage. I think relative to the other decks I've played, Lux I had the most success with, and then at least the real Lux deck. When I tried the Hook Lux, that did not work. But Lux I've had the most success with. Jinx was pretty good, but I need to test it again with the correct rune split. And this one felt like there was the potential there. I just really need to figure out, there's a couple glaring issues, and I don't know if they're gameplay issues or if it's deck build issues, but there were a couple glaring issues where I felt like if I didn't jump out to a reasonable parity with my opponent early, I had a really difficult time catching up. So there's some adjustments that need to be done to kind of help with that for this list. We'll see if I figure it out before Irelia comes out, who seems to be quite solid, but Irelia is my plan for the next set. And we will see how that goes. But I think that's all for today. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you guys in the next video.